Okay, so I'm aware of all the bloom that's coming from the side of the screen. I need you to ignore it. So, I know it's been a whole year since I uploaded anything to this channel. Oh god. Look, guys, I've been trying, okay? But it turns out it's really hard to try and make content when you have to still work a day job and raise a family and admittedly take on more projects than you can probably handle. But I hate myself, so I do it anyways. Cause oh man, have I been cooking. In fact, the next video that I was going to make was supposed to be all about this thing, but I decided to drop everything so I can make this video in which I spread the good word about F-Zero 99 and why you need to start playing it again. Because I know that most of you dipped out after November, and ever since I've been hearing stuff from outside the community along the lines of F-Zero 99. Ain't that game dead by now? No, not only has F-Zero 99 never died, but it is thriving now. And with the addition of version 1.5 that had just dropped, now is a better time than ever to hop back into it. Because there's so much content that's been added to this game, it's almost unrecognizable. This game's been out for a year now. That has to be at least 10 Concords. Like, really think about it. In an age where so many live services have either crashed and burned, become dead on arrival, never improved, or straight up deteriorated over time, if they even came out at all, F-Zero 99 and Helldivers are the only examples that I can think of live service games that actually live up to all the promise that these games deliver. So I'm going to take you along for a ride to show you all the new stuff that's been added in the game, and hopefully, by the end, I would have convinced you to play this instead of Overwatch 2. Like, I see you, Blizzard. I see you trying to lure people in with those wedding skins. That's some gacha game bullshit. Like, it's just a straight up gacha game now. Fuck you, Blizzard. But also, thank you for all the porn that's going to come out of this. So, the first thing that needs to be said is that there are, in fact, new tracks. In fact, there's a ton of new tracks. And we're going to talk about those new tracks, but I'm not going to talk about them now, because I know you want to know about the tracks more than anything else. So if I tell you about the tracks, you're not going to listen to the rest of the video, and thus YouTube's going to think this has low engagement. So if I talk about it at the end of the video, god, that's a lot of bloom, you'll actually stick around and see the rest of the video, and thus I'll get more engagement. I'm telling you, these are the tricks that YouTubers do to keep your eyes glued on the screen. Hey, what are you doing with that cursor? No, you better not be trying to fast forward to. So I want to bring your attention to the opening screen. Do you notice anything different? The addition of private lobbies. This is huge. So much larger than I think people take for granted. Do you know what this means? Having the ability to easily have private lobbies? It means people can organize tournaments. And when you have tournaments, you have a competitive scene. And F-Zero 99 has a thriving competitive community right now. It's small, but each event has hundreds of people participating at a time, but that's more than most fucking games on Steam right now get. If you get bored with regular racing, you can always participate in the Galaxy Grand Prix that this community organizes every single week. And they even have monthly events too, and they have qualifiers. Like, this is a whole tiny ecosystem of esports right here. And you can join it at any time just by going to r/F-Zero. They have an open link to the Discord channel where they post all of the events that they're hosting. And it's such a fun little community too. They're a bunch of goobers, but that's what makes them so enjoyable to hang out with and talk to, and it's just very pleasant, competitive people. So if you are someone who is serious about racing and online racing, like, don't fucking waste your time with garbage like Formula 1 or WRC. Those skanks are a bunch of gold diggers. Like, they don't deserve you. Now, F-Zero, that is a game that's going to treat you right. And it's all online too. You ain't gotta pay a dime to participate in tournaments.
You don't gotta leave your house. You don't have to sit next to sweaty man children who don't know the difference between a shower and body spray. It's great, you got everything. As long as this game stays online, I don't see this community going away anytime soon. In fact, I think it's just only going to grow from here on out. It is such a great environment to be a part of. So that's the first thing. Yo, there's like a big ass fly in here. I hope y'all can't hear him. Hey yo, bro, I'm going to need you to do me a favor and just die. I can't have people on the internet think that I live dirty. I lost the bastard. Hopefully he's dead, and hopefully you guys can hear him if he's still around. If he is, he paid my rent this month. Now the next major thing that's been added is the addition of weekly challenges. These are just little challenges you do, like very simple things you're gonna be doing anyways, like beating a certain number of rivals, doing a certain number of spin attacks, just participating in a certain number of races. Very low commitment stuff that grants you cool unlockables in the form of customizable boost animations and spin animations. Cause yes, you now have the ability to change your spin and boost animations, and they're all pretty cool too. This isn't even what they look like originally. They're a lot more toned down than this, but the one animator they must have gotten the project really stepped up, and now these all look fucking sick. And you can even preview what they look like now, because before you couldn't. That's a brand new addition to 1.5. A handful of these are restricted to seasonal events, which is a thing this game has. They previously had the Frozen Night League between January and February, and back in July they had the festival event, which had a straight up battle pass, which is something they messed around with, which I'll talk about with later. But yeah, just about all the other little animations you can unlock now, because even if you manage to unlock all of the stuff that was available in this season of weekly challenges, the game will actually fall back to rotate the previous rewards that you may have missed out on in previous weeks. So if you are someone who hasn't played since November, you now have a ton of content every single week you can now work to gain for. And even if you are a player who's on again, off again, like me, you still have stuff to always work for, because, you know, there's been times where I missed weekly challenges just because I couldn't make it, or I fell out of the game for a while. And I have to say, the fact that these are weekly challenges and not dailies like so many other games, that's a huge quality of life feature that I feel like most people don't even think about. With so many other live service games, the daily challenges just felt so exhausting to deal with. Is this thing tilted again? Like, guys, you let me know if the visor is like slightly tilted somehow in this. This is an old ass helmet. Daily challenges just made the game feel like a job. And you know, it felt so draining to have to constantly log in every single day just to get something so menial as like a fucking color or some shit. I can't remember what dailies most games have. I just remember none of them felt rewarding enough to invest the time into. But the fact that these are weekly challenges instead, it takes out so much pressure off of the player. Because, you know, it feels like less of a commitment. You can log in at any time of the week when you're available, or when you're in the mood for it. At the most, I'd say you'd be able to crank out the challenge conditions in like 2 days, so you only need to participate 2 days out of the week, and that could even be the weekend, because that's likely when you're going to be playing anyways, because there's more players active in the weekend than during the week. 2 days on the days you got off, like, yeah, that's totally doable, and it still feels like you're playing a game. It's just one of those reminders that F-Zero 99 doesn't even feel like a live service game, because it feels like a game first and not a service that doesn't even service players. That service is the company to make money. But to add to things that players can do to keep you engaged, they also added lucky draws, which is basically a lottery and gambling. because it's the year 2024 and gambling has been completely normalized, even in children's media. Oh wow, I'm glad to live in a perfectly normal and functioning society. Okay, the lottery is not actually gambling. What it is you do 5 races in a row, and that unlocks your ability to do a lucky draw. And it's a bunch of numbers like a lottery, and if you get at least one number that matches the lottery numbers, then you get one piece of a backdrop that you can unlock. Because yeah, that's another customizable thing that's been added. They have tons of new borders, tons of new badges, and even more backgrounds you can customize your pilot card with. It's honestly something inconsequential, but still meaningful enough, because you always see people's pilot cards before a race, and you can see some pretty cool stuff. The stuff that makes your car look cool and like, ooh, that guy, I should pay attention to that guy. Helps keeping up with the game still feel meaningful. And on that note, I just want to really quickly touch upon the decals and colors of this game. There aren't any new colors, but there are new decals that came with the brand new Grand Prix that have been added. But I think it's fine that there's no new colors, because it still feels meaningful to have unlocked all those colors to begin with. You know, every time live services are brought up in discussion, you always get old heads or millennials like me who go on about how cosmetics were a thing that used to be part of the game and now you gotta pay for it. Look, we go on about that because it was true. Cosmetics used to be a thing that came with the game that you paid for, you know? You didn't have to pay extra for it. A lot of cosmetic stuff that were in multiplayer games like old school Halo 3, those were unlocked by player skill. You know, you had to be good enough to earn that samurai helmet that was the envy of all your peers. It became a distinction of honor. You were good at this game because you put the time and effort into it, so you deserved to be revered at, not because you had money to throw at the game to just cheaply earn your way to looking cool. You looked cool because you are cool.
And if you really think about it, doesn't this really go to show just how fraudulent live services as a concept really are? Because think about it, in games like Halo 3 and F-Zero 99, the coolest stuff is locked behind a skill barrier. So in order to get the coolest stuff, you have to get good at the game. In order to get good at the game, you have to play the game and invest a lot of time into getting good. And you want to spend the time getting good because the game is fun to play, and therefore it naturally creates player attention by making the game fun. What a novel concept! Meanwhile, so many of these other live service games lack so much confidence in their game of actually being fun that they have to trick players into playing it. They have to use psychologically manipulative tactics like daily challenges, battle passes, FOMO, because they don't trust their players will actually stick around long enough to keep playing the game on their own incentive. You know, just something to think about, just a little food for thought, a little nibble of knowledge, a little morsel of mindfulness, a little...
Alright, but let's talk about new game modes, because there's also now new game modes, 2 of them in fact, that are added into the rotation. There's classic mode now. Now what classic mode does is that it basically reverts all the changes and becomes a 1-for-1 recreation of the Super Nintendo game. So that means 20 players a race, super narrow and tight courses. Hitting bumpers is far more debilitating now compared to the regular 99 race. In fact, bumping into other races is also so much more significant because it slows you down a lot but also speeds them up a lot, so you really don't want to run into other races. You have to treat it like a more traditional racing game where contact is discouraged. And it's also fucking fast, like, Jesus. Like, I didn't realize a Mode 7 game can make it feel like my face is peeling off. Like, it does have the consequence of being less dynamic than 99 races. It's a lot more like a traditional racing game where if you get stuck in the mid-pack or make too many mistakes and fall too far behind, there's no hope of ever recovering back up towards the front. And it also reverts to the balance of the original game, which means the Fire Stingray is the objectively best vehicle for that mode. Like, if you pick anything else, you're just doing it out of spite. Like I do. Falcon for life. But you know what, it's a fun little way to mix things up every now and then. It forces you to really play perfectly, so in that sort of way, it's a great sense to practice both your racecraft, because you have to practice not running into people, which in 99 can be beneficial, and it also helps you practice focus. You know, you're going so much more faster, so your mistakes are so much more bigger. So it has its place, and participating in the mini classic Grand Prix, that is the only way you can participate in their versions of Silence, Whiteland, and Firefield, because those are not available in the normal rotation. You have to participate in the mini prix in order to have a chance to race on those courses, which a lot of people are miffed about, but I actually think it's a great little quirk to encourage you to participate in the classic mini prix. I'm trying so hard to not move too much to the side so that the bloom just overtakes everything, but I need to get fucking curtains for this place. So that's classic mode. The other new mode, okay, it's technically not new. It's basically team mode, but completely revamped to the point that it might as well be a brand new mode. Instead of having 2 teams duke it out from each other, you now have 5 teams of 10 racers each, which means it's a race of 50. Now this is because in the original team mode, which had 99 racers, there was inherently an odd number of racers, which means one team immediately had the advantage, even if it's just a bot. Because, you know, that's a bot that can get knocked out and give points to the other team. So having it split among 5 different teams, yeah, there's still a chance that 2 players can end up on one team, but it allows a lot more wiggle room to even things out. And the other big addition to this new team mode is that by spin attacking into your teammates, you actually gain power sparks. And just like in normal team mode, everyone shares the same power spark meter. So if your team builds up enough, you can actually build up really quickly by just running into each other in the early race. But the other new addition is that you can gain points by riding the Skyway, and you can gain even more points on the Skyway by hitting the boost pads on it. Now, some of you might have realized that a really cheesy strategy is to just build up as many power sparks as quickly as possible, and then just cheese the points by just constantly going on the Skyways, especially if you time it right at the very specific points where there's going to be a lot of boost pads. To counter-event that, you have a very small window of time you can actually activate your Skyway before it goes away and you have to build it back up again. This is an interesting choice, to say the least. I think it ultimately works for this team mode specifically, because again, to prevent people from just borderline cheating, it does remove a lot of the strategic thinking behind using your Skyway for the most optimal moments. But again, it does make it really exciting. Like just before you're just about to reach the corner where the Skyway is going to be most prevalent and it comes up early, so you really have to come down to the wire before you activate it. It can be exciting in and of itself. So overall, team mode has been improved vastly, and now I actually want to play it now. It's good now. And finally, there's the big thing that has been added with version 1.5, and that is a brand new league, the Ace League, with 5 brand new courses. Now, I know some of you who already know about this saying it's not technically new. No, shut the fuck up. It is new, because these aren't just normal courses. These are BS F-Zero courses. For those of you who don't know, the original Super Nintendo game had like a pseudo-sequel in the Satellaview service that was available in the mid-90s. There's a bunch of other videos that go into more detail about what Satellaview was. Let's just say that it was online gaming and online services way before the term live service ever came about. It was games that you could play over a satellite broadcast. Like, you would clock in at certain times of the day and there'll be new content for your game, and even live commentary sometimes, depending on the game. F-Zero got an expansion in the form of BS F-Zero. BS stood for Broadcast Satellite, I think, not for what you're surely thinking right now. It was kind of BS that we had no way to play this game for 30 years, because the service was only available in Japan. It was never re-released in any form, so there was all these tracks and content that was just essentially lost media for 30 years. But now they finally brought it back for F-Zero 99. Oh, holy shit! Not only did they bring the courses back, but they also kinda brought back the 4 exclusive vehicles from that game, which are basically just the regular vehicles, but just objectively better. But still, they brought them back as decal skins for participating in all 5 races in a Ace Grand Prix. That is huge. Nintendo is restoring lost content and making it official again. And I don't know if y'all heard this, but on the same day that they announced 1.5, they also announced F-Zero GP Legend and F-Zero GP Climax, a game that was never released in the States, is now available on NSO. And I'm still processing it. Like, for 20 years, Nintendo has not given a shit about F-Zero, and now suddenly they're just throwing F-Zero at us all at once. They brought back the Game Boy Advance game a while back, and now they brought back all the Game Boy Advance games, including the one that we could never have. And it's And that brings me to the big thing you've been probably waiting for: the tracks. Nintendo said that they weren't going to add any more additional tracks outside the original 15 from the Super Nintendo game. Now, they either lied, or changed their mind, or some mad lad at the R&D department that's developing this game made it behind their backs anyways, showed it to them afterwards, and Nintendo was like, oh shit, this is actually really cool. So what are these new tracks? I need you to stick with me because it may sound underwhelming at first, but 15 of the new tracks are mirror courses, like in Mario Kart, where the track is just flipped. But I assure you it's a lot cooler than that, because they didn't just flip the courses over. They added new features into these courses. There's now mines in places that they weren't there before. There's now jump pads in places they weren't before. And biggest of all, there's now energy sparks that you can grab off the track itself. That is so huge. I'm trying to figure out how to articulate to describe how big of a deal this is. I'm going to try and stress this point by comparing 2 tracks, Deathwind and Deathwind Reverse. The original Deathwind is just an oval. If it wasn't for the fact that there was wind constantly forcing you to shift your position, it would be such an unremarkable track. But in F-Zero 99, it still ends up kind of being an unremarkable track because it's so simple. The original Deathwind 1, if you just boost far enough ahead, you're basically set for the entire race. You don't have to worry about anything else. But here's what they did in the reverse version of the track. They added so many power sparks that you can collect all throughout the track. And what this does is that people can gain skyways so much more quicker. Hell, even people in first place can grab skyways. There's just that many power sparks that you can grab. And what this does, it makes the race so much more unpredictable. Now that just about anyone can gain skyways, even people that are directly behind you, you have to stay on your toes because you never know when someone's going to be able to pass you. That's the difference that having power sparks on the course makes. A lot of the reverse tracks now have alternate pathways that are filled with power sparks you can pick up, so you have to think about whether you want to risk falling behind just to finally complete the build-up you need to get a skyway and gain back all those positions and more, or if you want to just still take the jump pad path that will basically skip a big chunk of the course. but you don't get power sparks. So yeah, they are reversed. It may seem cheap, but it does so much more to make these feel like brand new tracks. And so many of them feel so much more interesting than the vanilla ones because of those new additions. Like every time we have a choice between a normal version and a mirror version that pops up, I'm always going to vote for the mirror version because they're just so much more fun to play on. But it wasn't just the mirror tracks that are the brand new additions, they now added glitch tracks. Every now and then, during the normal rotation of 99 tracks, you'll see these sections start to like glitch out. And that's your sign to jump into a queue immediately because you have a chance to participate in a glitch track. There's 3 glitch tracks and all of them are basically 2 different courses mashed together into one. Let's see, there's a new version of Big Blue. There's what the community has called White Death, which is a combination of Whiteland 2 and Deathwind. White Death also has a brand new music track that combines Whiteland 2 and Deathwind soundtracks together, and I love going on that track just for the music of it alone. It sounds so fucking desperate and dire, like you really are participating in a death race. It's so good. And then there's Fire City, a combination of Mute City and Firefield. Again, brand new soundtrack, and it is fucking metal. I wish there was more of them because we can have like a full glitch Grand Prix. Because there is in fact a mini Grand Prix of all glitch tracks that you can very rarely catch.
Your time on this planet is so limited. And of that limited time, so much of it is taken up by working or going to school or just toiling away in one way or another. So your free time is even more limited. So honestly, ask yourself, what are you going to do with that limited amount of time? Are you going to spend it playing a game that is fun, that does respect your time and dedication, and you don't even got paid for it? That should be such an obvious choice, you know? Like, it's black and white. It's not even a discussion, right? I can't possibly be the crazy one here thinking that people would honestly buy games that are just so broken, blatantly unfinished, and oh god damn it. Here, how about this? It's like saying, who would you rather date? Someone who's just clearly sane and respectful, or a serial killer, right? Like, no one would honestly be dumb enough to want to date a serial... bullshit! Okay. How about this? Here's an example that no one can possibly argue about, alright? That's like trying to vote between a normal politician and a cartoon supervillain. No one could possibly argue what the right choice in that scenario is, right? Like, no one would want to vote for a candidate that just lies all the time and makes up the most ridiculous stuff, like people eating cats and dogs, right? No one would believe that. No one would vote for someone who just blatantly cheats on their wife, pays people off to keep it hidden, and constantly brags about sexually assaulting women, right? No one would trust someone who is best friends with Lex Luthor and a dictator that is actively committing war crimes, right? No one would vote for someone who rallies their followers to topple countries and then abandons those same followers in the middle of the desert. No one would vote for someone like that, right? Right?
You won't believe the power, believe the control, don't believe the jumps, the curves, or the feeling you get until you experience it for yourself.